Okay, so we are solving two-step equations. We only have 7 problems today. So our first problem, and you don't have to write down the word part of it, but we are trying to figure out, this family spent $52 for tickets, and the cost includes a $3.25 service fee, and then the tickets cost $9.75 each. How many tickets did they buy? Okay, so when we're looking at a multi-step equation or a two-step equation, we're going to follow PEMDAS, but backwards. So just to refresh your memory, who's heard of PEMDAS? Hopefully all of you. And then anybody remember what they stand for? Go ahead.
Parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, and subtract.
Okay, so we're actually going to follow these backwards. So we're going to start with add, subtract, and then we're going to go to multiply and divide. So this is number 1, and it's 52 equals 9.75 t plus 3.25. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave the variable alone first, and we're going to get rid of this 3.25. So we need to do the inverse operation, and it's either going to be add or subtract. It's subtract. So here's how I'm going to show that. I'm going to subtract 3.25 from both sides, because what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So that would zero that out, and I would have 9.75 t, and then 52 minus 3.25.
49,
Not 6.
49.75.
Plus
48.
Yeah, 48.75. Okay, so now I've moved on to the multiply or divide. So how will I isolate t? Divide by 9.75. So here's how I show that. I do a fraction bar with 9.75 under it. And then I would get t equals 5. So I want you to show your work just like that. Like when you divide, I want you to show divide like that. Okay. Number 2 is another word problem, and then we have just regular equations. So here's number 2. The mechanic's bill to repair Mr. Ray's car was $650. The mechanic charges $45 an hour for labor, and the parts that were used cost $443. How many hours did the mechanic work on the car? So I have to actually set up the equation this time. So think about what would be on the outside of the equal sign. Like, what's it going to total? $650 is my total. And then you have to think about, like, what is my variable going with? Like, what's the rate change part of it? Yeah, the hour part. The 45 an hour is the part that's going to change based off how much time. So I'm going to put 45, and I can use any variable, it doesn't matter. So you can use H or X or Y, it doesn't matter. And then I need to add my parts in there. My parts cost $443. And then I need to start solving. So I'm going to add or subtract first. Subtract. So I'm going to subtract 443 from both sides. So I'm going to have 45H equals And then what do I do next? Divide by 45. So age equals
4.6.
4.6. So it took that mechanic 4.6 hours to repair that vehicle. Did you guys realize when you take a vehicle to a mechanic, they charge you in hours? I think they don't call it hours, they call it labor. But that's like part of your bill is how many hours in labor it takes. Okay, here's number 3. All right, this one looks different because it has a fraction on one whole entire side, which is different than what we've had. So whenever we come across that, we have to get rid of that fraction first. What's the opposite of a fraction? That'd be technically the same thing. Like what's the inverse operation of a fraction? Multiplication. So we're gonna multiply by the denominator to get rid of it. So that would cancel out those the 4s, and I would be left with r plus 7 equals 20. So now I just have a one-step equation.
Wouldn't that be doing PIMDOS? Not opposite? Wouldn't that be doing PIMDOS, not opposite?
Yes, so this one's different because I have the fraction over the whole entire side. That's why this one is kind of weird. So then now I do addition or subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 7. So r equals 13. Okay. Number 4. All right, so does this one have the fraction covering the whole thing? Is the whole side a fraction? No, so then we would do PIMDOS backwards because the whole thing is not a fraction. Just one little part of it is a fraction. So we'll do PIMDOS backwards, so we're gonna start with what? Subtract 7 from both sides. So n over 3 equals 15. Okay, and then how would I isolate n?
5.
Multiply by 3. So n would equal 45.
How do you multiply?
Because this is in and that line means divide. So the opposite would be to multiply. That's saying n divided by 3. So the inverse is n times 3. All right. Number 5. Okay, so this time my fraction is covering the whole entire side. So what would I start by doing? Grant? Yep, get rid of the fraction. So multiply both sides by the denominator. So then I would have y minus 4 equals 27. And then now I have a 1 step,
Add 4.
add 4.
So y equals 3.
Mhm. Okay, so you guys just have 2 more. And it is okay on these answers, like on your homework too. You don't always have to have a whole number answer. I know all of these have been a whole number, but you can have an answer that's a decimal or a fraction. It doesn't mean it's wrong. So I'm going to give you number 67 for you to try. Okay, so if I go through this, so if you kept it as a fraction, it would be 7 halves equals x, or 3.5 equals x, either way. On number 7, you have to multiply by 6 first to get rid of that fraction. So then you have 2x plus 3 equals 24. So this is actually a 3-step equation. So you would get x equals 10.5. Okay, so then your assignment is on page 34 and 35.